All right, so this is the plan. All right. So the way this works is you got to take all these off these brackets right here. They have brackets on the coilovers. So you just replace these on the coilovers once they're installed in the car. But you just pull these off. Out the way. There's a bolt that runs through the back of here. If I remember correctly, it was a 18 or 19 millimeter bolt. This whole strut tube is going to pull out of the lower knuckle down here. So once this is out of the lower knuckle, which it takes a fair amount of effort, I'm leaving the top connected up here, leaving this connected so that once I have the bottom free, I can just hit it with a hammer and apply the weight down to pull it down. That should make things significantly easier. If I have any issues with fitment or maneuvering anything, so on and so forth, all I'll do is I'll go back over to the other side, the driver's side of the car, and I'll disconnect it from the top. Then I'll allow the whole suspension to have more play up and down because the sway bar links are still attached. So it's going to tie both sides together on some level. So basically all we got to do now is we're going to get to it, get this bolt loose, see if we can get it to come off smooth. This side is a lot less rusty than the other side was. As soon as it's confirmed that that's down and off of it, and I have some room to maneuver, I'll take the top off, and we'll get the other front side on, and go from there, man. So, all right, just stay watching. Okay, that took way longer than I intended on it to be, but I'm used to knuckles that bolt on or weld on the cars. The Datsun, you welded them onto the lower hubs, so they're all assembled and they can never come back apart. S13s, you just run 2 bolts through the bottom, run 3 bolts to the top, straightforward. Lexus, most of the time it's an eyelet at the bottom, an eyelet at the top, or it's at least bolts at the top and an eyelet at the bottom, so it's pretty more straightforward. This one, having to slide it down into the knuckles, I guess a lot of European cars are like that. I haven't done a Volkswagen in years. I did one on a 13 GTI when it was new, so I guess it was probably like 5 years ago. I think it was a couple years old, but it was, still a new car. But we got the coilover in. Got the bolt through the back. We got all the bracketries holding up. Both coilovers have brackets on the front and back side, so they're ambidextrous. You don't have to worry about which sides the front go on. Helper spring is on. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to adjust the ride height on the collars. We're going to make sure both ride heights are identical. I don't want the car too slammed since I'm running the 15mm spacers now, and I'm not rolling any fenders on this thing, so I got to make sure it sits high enough to accommodate for any kind of suspension travel, on top of make sure it's not going to rub turning if I'm going up in the driveway or something like that. So yeah, we just got to do some ride height adjustments, put the wheels back on, and then we'll move to the back. It's getting kind of late, so I'll probably do the rears tomorrow is what it's looking like out here. So, but hey, we got the fronts on. It's a little bit more oriented than I thought it was going to be, but not a problem. It just took a little bit more time. I really didn't want to do the passenger side till I got those spacers. That's why it was such a big gap between now and then. But fronts are on. Hardest part is done. The rear should be relatively easy, straightforward. I got to take the rear upper mounts off the car and just reinstall them on the new struts, and then pull out the springs in the rear. The rear should be able to be simultaneously done and not take up maybe another hour or two. If I was going to gauge anything, I'd probably say the fronts are about a 2-3 hour ordeal. If you run into some bumps, mostly just being like rusty parts and whatnot. So you're going to need 18mm sockets, 2 18s, one to lock the nut in on the back side of the hub, the other one obviously to spin it. Top factory is a 22mm bolt to get the hub, not the hub, but the strut mount off from in the engine bay from the top plate. And there's going to be a 21mm socket to get the mount itself off if you're reusing your factory mounts, if they're still in good condition. A lot of cars have had factory suspension replacements, so they should be in good condition. There is also an Allen key. Let's see if I can show you this. There's an Allen key in the middle of that. You're supposed to use an Allen to hold that in place while you spin that nut so that you don't break it off. You don't want to hit it with like an impact or anything like that unless it's a very, very low torque impact. Otherwise, it can snap the shaft off. And if you do that, you void your warranty on your coilovers. So just heads up on that. Used to deal with that when selling coilovers. Snap it off, you bought it permanently, no warranty. All right, so I'm gonna put these wheel spacers on, get the front on, tighten up the collars. Always make sure that you tighten any collars on the coilovers you get. Some companies do tighten them down with the coilover wrenches they come with, so you don't have to worry about it, but it's always good to double check and inspect. And with a setup like this, you actually move the collars that are under the springs to do ride height adjustments. So you definitely want to make sure that they're tight, because that's not something you want coming loose or adjusting or messing up your clearances, especially if you're doing something that's a tight wheel fitment or something like that. You don't want to have that room for error in it. So, but okay, I'm gonna hop back to it. I'm gonna do this. I'll put the wheels on off camera. Everybody's seen wheels put on a car if you're working on a car like 100 million times, and I don't want y'all to see me struggle with these lug bolts. Wheel studs are so much better. But all right, I'm gonna do this off camera, and then I'll be back on when we get to the rear.